Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday Chill Talk of the week. So, basically, today the subject I want to bring to you is the effect generational culture has on us. I have to be honest with you. I'm gonna weigh more on the bad side than I'm gonna weigh on the good side. Not because it's not good to talk about the good side, but because I feel this is what affects young people right now, and this is what can impact them. So, what I want to do is bring more of a solution and things that maybe as parents we can do, put in place, so that in turn we can support young people way better. So before I start, I just wanted to remind you that this platform is your platform. So please feel free to comment, like, send me questions in regards to the talks I do. And if you want me to talk about something in a next Tuesday Chill Talk, please feel free to come. I'll be happy to get some feedback from you guys and I don't know, move this platform about. So let me start. So generational culture, are they a good thing? Are they a bad thing? I think they are both. They are good and they're bad. They're good in the sense that it's great to have, I would say, more of traditions, of things that have been done from generation and generation that have been kept. Sometimes you see people who are makers who have had this kind of skills being passed on from generation to generation and generation, and that's just amazing. There's things that have been passed on that are not maybe skills, but they are ways of being. Like, for example, if I'm always using myself, but when I see myself, I think about my love for travel. Like, my dad used to love traveling. We were always going somewhere, always. I remember coming to my teenage years and knowing a lot of parts in France way better than some of my colleagues at school or other students or other friends that I knew. There was always an idea of like going somewhere, having this adventure, having these things happening, and I grew to love that. And I think this was passed on to me through my dad. And there are things like food, maybe food. I learned things in terms of culinary skills from my mother that she learned from her mother, who learned from her mother and her mother. And I feel like those kind of things are amazing, and those are things that you want to carry on. So basically, um, quite a few years ago, I got married with my husband, and we got married into this like small castle in France, in like Normandy in France, and when I learned about when we were looking for a venue, what really hit me is that that was a property that they had from generation and generation, and that they were really adamant into keeping it alive, and that's why they didn't want it to just stay derelict, and actually were hiring it to people so that they could have their events and things like that. And I just love the story. I love the fact that there was a meaning behind things. And I think this is what we want to do in general, in bringing some meaning and some belonging to our young people, for them to know that this is where you come from, and where you come from these things happen, or this happens more, and we do things like this. we are maybe better in this way, we go around this way, we do this. So I mean, you get what you get the gist, you get what I'm saying. So that's the amazing way. That's the way where really traditions and having the thing, like yesterday I was watching the Olympics, and the New Zealand team of the women's New Zealand team, who were doing the aka, like the chant and the dance, the traditional chant and dance that they do. And it was just so amazing. Every time I watch it, everywhere I see it, I'm just mesmerized by the way people are doing it in the same way that their ancestors used to have it. I think it's just amazing. And on that side, I am all for embracing tradition and generational culture. But now I'm going to come to it a little bit in a deeper way, and a little bit in a on the negative side of things that can happen when we carry generational culture. So a culture is the way that people are behaving, and the way like a group of people are behaving, and that way, if it is a good way, will bring the goodness into other things. But if it is not a good way, it tends to actually destroy things. And I'm really weighing my words here. Destroy, I think, is the word, because when you are then carrying generational trauma, which is where I want to go now, this actually destroys you inside, and then it destroys everybody that is around you, in a small way or in a bigger way, but it has its impact. So when you think of it, when you are happy, when you are feeling contentment, what do? You tend to bring that energy, bring that vibe to people around you. So imagine what happens with young people, what happens with teenagers, what happens with children when they are taking the after effects of that trauma that parents have gone through. So now I'm going to go to my notes. So generational trauma is traumatic event that happened in a previous generation. Basically, that's what it is. Lack of therapy will mainly worsen the symptom of the trauma, and this can come out in many ways. So it can come out in a lack of trust of other people, anger, irritability, nightmares. It could come in nightmares, by being fearful, inability to connect positively with others. Let me give you an example. So this is a story of someone I know who, unfortunately, the mother has not been able to maybe deal or maybe embrace that person's emotion, and is always feeling like the victim. So the mother has been a victim of a trauma, and instead of healing from that trauma, she's carried that trauma, and then kind of in her action, in the words that she's saying, in things, in the way she behaves, she then carry the I would see the depth of that trauma onto the children. The children have now become adults themselves, and they are now parents themselves. They are trying to do the work on themselves to heal from the trauma that they've had in the past because of the mother's way of being. Unfortunately, because the mother hasn't done the work, what's happening is that they're always coming back to zero. So they're always coming back to, this is happened, and this is what you've done, and this is what you're doing, and the mother being the victim, that she is a victim in her own sense, and it is true. But if you do not do the work on yourself to heal, it's difficult. And what you do is that you're carrying this and then can't really, I would say perform, is perform the right word? I don't know. But you can't really be the parents, the full parents that you can be to that person. And you keep on bringing that person back into this, I would say, traumatic experience. So it's a little bit like what I was telling you about the castle where I went. So they inherited the castle. But what happens is that when there is trauma, and when the trauma is not being healed, and that this trauma is being passed on, is inherited. It's an inheritance that you receive. Does this shock you? It doesn't shock, but the fact that I'm saying those words, I inherited trauma from somebody, is just in another world. Can you imagine not dealing with your own trauma in a way that helps you live your right life, so helps you let go, help you forgive, and understand that you have the right to live your right life, and then carrying this trauma and putting it on your kids in a one way or another. So according to studies, experiencing trauma may leave a mark on your individual genes, which then can get passed to future generation. It's so sad to hear that. Sometimes it can skip a generation, and sometimes it doesn't. So sometimes the trauma is still going through the next generation. Leaving the science aside, can you actually do, and here is where I'm giving you this kind of like inner exercise, if I can say it like that, inner exercise. Leave the science aside. Can you do a natural assessment of your own trauma? Can you go through your different trauma? And believe me, trauma is not something big or something small. There's no metrics around trauma. Trauma is trauma. Whether what you went through was small or big or medium, whatever it feels to you, it is trauma. If you feel it's trauma, then it is trauma. How can you do an assessment? So be thorough. Actually, take a pen and paper and start writing. This is things that happened to me at this period of time. How can I heal from this? How can I heal from this? And obviously, there is no discussion and back and forth here, but I hear you saying, but what can I do to heal? So I've got a few suggestions. So first of all, once you've done the assessment, is acknowledging and recognizing that this is trauma. And it sounds so easy, but it's actually the hardest thing to do. So first is doing that. And then is seeking help. Seeking help in terms of like asking for a therapy, going to a therapist, doing some forgiveness work intensely, doing some meditation, healing yourself, looking after your own health, because if you are sleeping well, if you are eating well, if you are looking after yourself and you are in a great form, you have more the need, you have more the want of going and do a little bit more to heal yourself. Look at the behaviors that come with that trauma, that are associated to that trauma, and try and change the habit that is linked to it. So basically, if you're always shouting on your teenager, there's something there. Where does it come from? What do you need to change there? Or what do you need to recognize for you to then go through the healing process? And everything I'm saying here does not happen overnight. Please, like, it takes time. But imagine the ripple effect that comes from you being healed, you as a parent being healed from your trauma, and the relationship you can then build with teenagers and young people. Remember, our children are sponges, so they will grab everything, everything. So probably they've already been grabbing from. And I think in that healing process, once you come to an understanding and an acknowledgement that you are doing the work, you can then bring your child as well and do the work with them. Make them understand that I went through this. If it's something that you can share, sometimes there's things that are difficult to share, but if it's something you can share, I went through this and this is the process I took in order to heal myself. And this is where you are actually leading by example. You are being the role model that that young person, that teenager needs in their life. So the negative effect of not dealing with own trauma is there's basically two things that majorly comes. So there will be a difficulty in assessing risk with individuals' own partners. So when you have been hurt, or when you are in pain, which is like carrying the trauma, your vision is an impaired vision, basically. And it will be difficult for you in that way to assess everything fully, unless you've got a partner that is himself whole in his wholesome way, is on a better place and can help you and can support you into healing from the trauma. The second thing, it can lead to neglect of your teenagers' needs, neglect of your young people's needs. I feel that going through this, the process of healing, going through a process that will support you as the adult, you are then realizing that you are not only supporting yourself, but you are supporting your young person, your teenager, so that they go and enter adulthood not with a baggage of the trauma, although we still have traumas anyway, because you never know when it's going to come, but have lesson, or even have ways of dealing with the trauma. Imagine that effect on that young person. Imagine how healing from your own is actually going to put you more in control of your own emotions, but it's going to put your children, your teenagers, and your young people more in control of their own emotions. Therefore, knowing how to look after themselves and their emotional well-being, but also in having empathy in having understanding of others' emotion and others' feeling. So this was my talk today. Um, I think there's a lot more to talk about this subject, and I'm probably over the next month. I will probably come back to this subject with more. But I will say a practical way is doing that exercise of the assessment and then seeking ways to deal with the hurt, with the pain, with the trauma. Thank you so much for listening today. Thank you so much for watching this video, listening to what I'm saying. If there is any comments, if you like this video, if you just give it a like, if you feel like you want to ask more questions, feel free to do it, and I'll be really happy to engage with you. Thank you so much for today, and you take care of yourself. I will be back here next Tuesday for the Chill Parenting Talk. See you. Bye.